Hi everyone, welcome back to a new lesson with me today. My name's Jenny and I'm a British English teacher. Now today's lesson has taken me quite a lot of time to prepare. I have no less than 40 expressions for you today. If you find this useful, it would be really helpful to me if you could like the video, leave me a comment, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please consider doing so because I post a lot of videos and lessons similar to this one. Okay, so in today's lesson, we are going to learn 40 expressions that we can use with make. Many people confuse when to use make and when to use do. I'll just quickly give you a very basic difference between the two verbs and how they are used. So we usually use make when we mean to create or to fabricate something or to produce something. For example, a cake. We made a cake. Make can also mean to force. For example, my boss made me work late. And make can also mean to cause. For example, social media has made it easier for people to stay in touch. And then if we look just very basically at do, we tend to use do for jobs and tasks, things that we have to do. But if you like this lesson about make, I'd be very happy to make a more detailed lesson about do expressions. However, today we are going to focus on fixed expressions with make, as this is often where it can get a little bit tricky. When you have these fixed expressions, knowing when to use make and when to use do can be really quite complicated. So if you're ready, let's take a look at the first of our 40 make expressions. Number one is to make progress, and this means to move forward, usually in your work or with a project. For example, great progress is being made by the research team. Okay, here we actually have made it even more complicated because we're using the expression to make progress in the passive form. Number two is to make conversation, and this is to speak to somebody that you don't know or you don't know very well in order to be polite. Everyone was just making conversation before the training session began. So everybody was just chatting, having a little conversation between themselves. The next expression is to make sure. And this means to ensure something or to do something, to take some action, to be certain that something is true or that it happens. I'll give you an example. She went back to make sure that she had turned the stove off. If you don't know, the stove is the top part of the cooker, usually where you use your frying pans or your other pans to cook food. The next phrasal verb is to make do or to make do with something, and this is to manage or cope with what you have available, even though it's not really enough. I'd like to buy a new dress for the wedding, but I'm broke, so I'll have to make do with one of my old ones. Number 5 is to make an appointment, and this is to create an appointment or a formal arrangement to meet somebody at a specific time. For example, I've made a dentist appointment for Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Number 6 is to make change, and if somebody asks you to make change, what they're asking for is for you to give them smaller coins. For example, maybe they have a banknote and they can't pay for parking because they need coins, so they'll ask you to make change. So they will give you the £5 note and you give them £5 coins or smaller coins. For example, please can you make change because I need to pay for parking, and they don't take notes. The next phrasal verb is to make a joke, and this means to tell a joke. I've actually made a similar lesson to this one all about expressions with tell. I'll leave that in the description box below so you can check that out after this lesson. Watch this lesson first and then go and watch the tell expressions lesson. If we want to use make a joke in a sentence, we could say he always makes the funniest jokes. It's exactly the same as he always tells the funniest jokes. Number 8 is to make friends, and this means to establish a friendship. For example, she quickly made friends at her new school. Number 9 is to make a mistake, and this is to do something which you didn't intend to do. For example, I'm really sorry, I've made a stupid mistake. 10 is to make money, and this is to earn or to generate money either from a job or from an investment. For example, they made a lot of money last year, so they can finally afford to buy a house. 11 is to make a phone call. This is to telephone somebody. For example, I just need to make a few more calls and then I'll be finished with my work for the day. The next phrasal verb is to make a profit or to make a loss. And this is to either earn money to make a profit or to lose money to make a loss. This is usually from a business or an investment. For example, we made quite a big loss last year, but we are hoping this year will be different and that we'll make a profit as we have a new contract. Number 13 is to make an investment, and this is to put money into a company or to a project for a period of time with the hope of making money, making a profit. For example, she made a smart investment in her 20s and she was able to retire at 40. The next expression is to make a difference, and this means to improve a situation. For example, recycling is one way that people can make a difference in tackling climate change. The next phrasal verb is to make a contribution, and this means to help or assist. For example, you should really try and do work where you feel you can make a contribution. 16 is to make a comparison, and this simply means to compare something. For example, in English exams, you are often asked to make a comparison between two photographs. 17 is to make a decision. This means to decide something. After careful consideration, they finally made a decision. The next expression is to make public, and this means to cause something to be known publicly. For example, they decided to make their engagement public. This is more used with celebrities or famous people because obviously there is more public interest in them. So they often decide to make things public when the time is right for them. 19 is to make an impression, and this means to cause somebody to notice you or to admire you. For example, the interviewee really made an impression and so they offered him the job. Number 20 is to make sense, and this is to be clear and easy to understand. What you're saying makes sense. I completely agree with you. The next expression is to make a point of doing something, and this is to take particular care to make sure that something gets done. For example, she always makes a point of calling her elderly aunt every Sunday. So in this case, she always makes a conscious effort. She always makes sure that she calls her aunt every Sunday. 21 is to make time, and this means to find the time, especially when you're busy. If you want to see a video lesson about phrasal verbs that we can use with time, I'll also leave that in the description box as I think that would be useful too. An example sentence with make time could be, it's important to make time to eat healthily and to do some exercise. 22 is to make the most of something, and this means to take full advantage of something because it may not last long. For example, let's make the most of this lovely sunny day and go for a picnic. The next expression is to make an attempt, and this is to try and do something. For example, she made several attempts to contact him, but she wasn't able to get through. To get through is to make contact, is to achieve that contact with somebody. The next is to make an excuse, and this is to often give false reasons why you can't do something. For example, if you don't want to do it, just make an excuse and forget about it. The next expression is to make a complaint, and this means to officially express your dissatisfaction with something. I'd like to speak to the manager to make a complaint. 26 is a 2-for-1. We have to make war, which is to initiate or instigate a war. And then on the other hand, we have to make peace, which means to re-establish peaceful and or friendly relations. For example, after arguing all afternoon, they finally made peace before going to bed. So you can also use make peace with your personal relationships. It doesn't have to be an outright war. 27 is to make amends, and this means to do something good to show that you are sorry for something that you have done wrong. Let me buy you lunch to make amends for cancelling dinner last week. 28 is to make a fuss, and this means to become overly angry or excited about something. For example, calm down a bit. There's no need to make a fuss over something so unimportant. 29 is to make love, and this means to have sex. For example, the opening scene of the film was of the two main characters making love. Number 30 is to make a promise, and this is to affirm or declare that you will do something or that something will happen. For example, she made a promise that she would always be there for her. The next one is make a scene, and this is quite similar to make a fuss. It means to behave in a loud, angry way in public. For example, they were so embarrassed when their toddler made a scene in the middle of the supermarket. A toddler is a child between the ages of 1 and 3, so they typically will make scenes. It's very normal for this age. 32 is to make your mind up, and this means to decide. For example, oh, the menu looks great. I can't make up my mind about what to have. 33 is to make a comment or to make a remark, and this is to say something about something. For example, the politician declined to make a comment due to the controversy of the matter. 34 is to make fun of somebody, and this is to make unkind jokes about somebody. For example, he felt sad because the other kids were making fun of him. 35 is to make a face, and this means to make a strange or a silly expression on your face to show how you feel about something. For example, they were making silly faces at each other all afternoon. 36 is to make an exception, and this means to not treat somebody according to the usual rules or procedure. For example, in the circumstances, I'm prepared to make an exception. So this means maybe you've done something wrong and normally you would get into a lot of trouble, but there are special circumstances that mean that you won't be treated in the normal way. An exception will be made. The next expression is to make a deal, and this is to agree or to negotiate an agreement. For example, the unions and the government have finally made a deal regarding public sector pay increases. The next expression is to make a move, and it's quite an informal expression, which means to leave somewhere. For example, it's getting late, it's time we made a move. 39 is to make a habit of something or of doing something, and this means to do something so regularly that you no longer need to think about it. For example, she managed to make a habit of working out as soon as she woke up. So in this case, she didn't even need to think about it. She just woke up, put on her workout clothes and did her workout. She made a habit of it. And the last expression with make that we have today, number 40, is to make a threat. And this means to say that you will cause harm to somebody, or there will be other negative consequences if that person does or doesn't do what you want them to do. For example, after the neighbours made many threats, the family decided to call the police. So those are the 40 expressions with make that I have for you today. Like I said at the beginning of this lesson, if you want me to make a similar lesson using the verb to do, I'd be really happy to do that. Don't forget to leave me a comment in the comment section below. And now that you've finished watching this lesson, why not go and watch another of my lessons that I will leave in the description box for you.